Good evening, I'm Anthony Robart. This is Crime Beat, the stories behind some of Canada's most high-profile homicides, told by the reporters who walk the beat every day. Tonight.
We hugged each other, and she went out the door, and that's the last I saw her.
Lisa was just a missing person, and it's not illegal to be missing.
She just vanished.
Now we have a criminal investigation. Now we have foul play.
Crime reporter Nancy Hixt has the story of Lisa Mitchell, the mysterious disappearance of a Calgary mother.
At 29 years old, Lisa Mitchell had a lot on her plate. Lisa and her common-law husband had 2 children. In the fall of 2012, she was juggling 2 jobs to try to make ends meet. One of those jobs took her to the small rural community of Longview, Alberta, about an hour's drive south of Calgary. On weekends, Lisa was a waitress at the Twin Cities Hotel and Saloon. It's the place to go for the charm of a small-town Cheers, the kind of place where everyone knows your name. That October, the hotel was preparing for a big Halloween bash.
She needed a quick costume. Said, I didn't know I had to dress up, Mom. You know, it's a Halloween. I said, it's a Halloween party at the bar. So it was actually one of my mom's outfits. It was a one-piece jumpsuit, like light purple and white sparkles, like a disco thing. So she dressed like that.
Peggy lives in Longview and recommended the part-time job at the saloon to her daughter.
I work part-time at the bar because that's how you get to know people in a small town, right? You don't want to go there all the time, but yeah, you can serve them and then go home.
On October 27, 2012, Peggy joined Lisa for the party.
People would comment, like every time Lisa and I walked into the bar, they're like, oh my God, you know, you look so much alike.
It was one of the best nights Peggy ever spent with her daughter.
It was so much fun. Yeah, we were dancing, we were laughing. It made me smile. It was inside feel good to see her out having fun. And we partied after till about 3 in the morning. We got home. And she ended up staying the night here. We were up by about 9 the next morning. And we were just hanging out, having coffee and talking. And it was about 11 o'clock or so. We were going to make a brunch.
But a phone call interrupted their plans. Lisa told her mother she was urgently needed at home. They hugged goodbye and said they'd chat soon. Lisa hopped in her truck and headed north to Calgary. Peggy was blindsided by what happened next.
She just vanished.
2 days went by without a single word from Lisa. Peggy started to worry.
I left her voicemails, yes, you know, like, hey, where are you? Haven't heard from you. You know, call me, right? And I think I sent her a couple texts, like, haven't heard, you know, what are you doing? Or is everything okay? So I drove to Al's place and yeah, knocked on the door and yeah, didn't know what to expect. And he opened the door and I asked him where Lisa was. And he said, she took off, she left. He said that they were having a discussion on the Monday, I think he said. She had sent him out to go get cigarettes. And when he came back 15 to 20 minutes later, he said she was gone. The first thing I noticed is I looked to my right and was there a front hall closet and I saw her shoes, her favorite shoes, and her jacket. I'm thinking it's October. Where would she go without her favorite jacket and shoes? And I said, I want to see the rest of the house. And I went through the house and there was a few of her personal things. I didn't see her purse, but I saw a lot of her her jewelry that she would normally have on if she left the house. She had a phoenix necklace, a leather wristband type thing. There are certain things that she wore when she left the house, and they were still there. But I didn't see her.
That's when Allan explained that after she left, Lisa sent him an email. He suggested she might have sent Peggy one as well. Maybe that would lead to some answers. So Peggy went home and checked her email.
And there was an email there, just had to get away, we'll be in touch, love ya.
Peggy couldn't believe it. She struggled to accept Lisa would just pick up and leave. They emailed back and forth for a few weeks, but there was never enough information in those messages to alleviate Peggy's worries. She slept with her phone beside her bed, but when that call finally came, Peggy missed it. She was asleep.
It was a couple weeks later, on the 16th, like at 2:45 in the morning, I got a voicemail. She said, I'm okay, sometimes things get out of hand, sometimes they take a while. I can't remember the whole thing. But I'm okay. But the conversation ended where she said, okay, he's home, I gotta go. Like, who's home? And why do you have to go? So you think in your mind, is she with someone controlling? Is she chained up in a basement somewhere? You've heard of that, right? And is they controlling him? Like, why can't you have a conversation with your mom? Like, who is this person that you're with? But it just didn't sound right.
Coming up after the break, things weren't adding up. Was there foul play, or had she just taken off? Peggy decided she needed to go to police. Lisa's case was now being looked at by Calgary police. She was still considered a missing person. But that didn't make sense to her mother, who knew it wasn't in Lisa's character to just take off. We now return to Nancy Hixt with the disappearance of Lisa Mitchell.
Lisa was the youngest of Peggy's 2 children. From a very early age, she expressed herself through art.
She started drawing when she was 4. She was a lot into anime with Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z and those types of drawings. Yeah, and she could draw a motorcycle from memory in explicit detail.
Lisa also loved music.
In high school, that is when she met her friends they formed a girls singing group and danced. They make their own videos. They were called Just Cuz, C-U-Z.
Daddy's girls are weak, thanks for the love you gave to me. Daddy's girls are weak.
After high school, Lisa worked at a lot of grocery stores and coffee shops. And at one point, she worked for a mobile snow cone company. She would work selling snow cones at different events. That included concerts, which allowed her to meet some of her favorite bands.
Nickelback was playing. So she was done her work, and she was just, working her way to the front like she always does. And she ended up talking to this lady there. And it turned out that it was Chad Kroger's mom. So I've got a picture of her upstage, on stage at the autograph table, sitting behind the table between Chad and the other guy.
Lisa talked about that moment for years. It was not long after that she met Allan Shyback.
She was at a restaurant somewhere in Northeast Calgary, and he was one of the sous chefs or one of the cooks there. My husband at the time and I didn't like him. We didn't think he would be good for her because she was so outgoing and so vivacious, and he was more introvert.
Lisa fell in love with Allan. But as her mom predicted, their differences soon caused a rift in their relationship.
right from the beginning, he would get upset if, you know, she went out, because like I said, she just wanted to be out there and have fun. And he would get a little bit of, you know, upset, because like I said, he was more of an introvert. But they worked it out, and Lisa said, you know, this is who I am.
Things were better for a while, but eventually the same old issues popped up again.
And I got a call from her. She had come home from work, and he had moved out on her and taken everything. So at that time I was separated from my husband, so me and my current husband Jay said, okay, we're on our way. And we rented a vehicle and went up there. And I asked her at that time, because I know one of the things he had taken was her guitar. And I said, you know, what did he take that meant the most to you? And we'll get that back. And she looked at me and she said, my heart.
After 5 years with Allan, Lisa moved in with her mom. She even started dating again.
During that time she was gone, Al came. Al found where I was and said he was sorry about what happened. He wanted her back. He showed me an engagement ring he had bought for her. And I said, you know, she's moved on. She's in Toronto with so-and-so. So, you know, you got to talk to her, right? And a couple of weeks later when Lisa got back, then, yeah, they got back together.
It wasn't long after that, they started a family. First a little boy, then just over 2 years later, they had a girl.
We would talk 3 to 4 times a week. And I remember she said the power was out in their house, so they had to barbecue their meals. And one time something else her oven didn't work, so she made cookies in a frying pan for the kids. Like, it was always for the kids.
Allan worked as a cook, or sometimes as a mechanic, but Peggy said he had trouble keeping jobs. Lisa would take care of the kids during the day, and then go to work at night.
So I would be there during the day, and Al would come home from work, and he'd always be, you know, I'm tired. And meanwhile, she's been looking after the kids all day. She's made supper, and all he wants to do is just sit and veg on the couch. He was always too tired to play with the kids, to help her in the kitchen at that time. And yeah, and then you'd see the yelling start a little bit, because she would just get frustrated because she had to get ready to go to work, and she couldn't do everything.
The relationship took a turn for the worse, and Lisa told Peggy the fights turned violent.
You can tell them your thoughts, and you could try to guide them and support them. Like, she knew at any time that we would take her in, right? Even at one time we said, bring the kids out here and live with us. That was in July 2012. We said, you can live with us, right? That's when I got her the part-time job at the hotel. I said, it's a start.
After a decade together, Lisa felt obligated to try to work things out with Allan. So that's what they did. They moved into a new place in Southeast Calgary.
I was hoping that they could be better, and because she felt good about herself, she was happy. But at that time too, she wasn't with Al when she was happy. Like, he didn't make her happy. That's what it boiled down to.
When Lisa left her mom's house that morning after the Halloween party, Peggy thought everything was fine.
We hugged each other, and she went out the door, and I saw she had parked her truck down the street, and that's the last I saw her.
After the break, the investigation into what happened to Lisa was ramped up as the evidence began to point to foul play. We now return to Nancy Hixt and the disappearance of Lisa Mitchell.
Constable Carl Sudik was working with the Calgary Police Missing Persons Unit when Lisa disappeared. He was assigned as the lead investigator on the case.
Lisa was still out there as far as everybody knew. So we had to kind of follow through and see, okay, where could she be? Who could she be talking with? Why would she want to leave her family? First thing is, just talk to people who are close to her, find out what her movements are, find out where her banking is, try and track her banking. You know, if we could, try and find phone records, just get a feel for where she's supposed to be, who she's supposed to be with, and what her lifestyle was like.
Thank you. What stood out to Sudik were the emails from Lisa to both Peggy and Allan.
Yeah, it was very confusing. Lisa wasn't sure if she wanted to be there, so she was dating other men at the time, which added another level of complexity, trying to find out who she was dating, because some of these people that she was dating and talking with were not in Calgary, which kind of fit the story of her leaving Calgary and going away with someone else that I believe the emails and the voicemail had said.
But every possible lead was a dead end.
There was a cursory search done of the house. The officers took a look through just to see if anything looked out of the ordinary, if there had been signs of any sort of violence. The house, from what I understand from their notes, was clean, it was organized, except the basement. There was just a bunch of junk piled up, which you look at half the basements in Calgary, looks pretty much the same.
It appeared Lisa had, in fact, just picked up and left. Investigators needed to find out if Allan had any more information that could help them track down Lisa.
We interviewed Allan just to get him into a story of exactly what happened. I'd asked a senior homicide investigator to sit down and have a chat with him. Someone who's very, very experienced in interviews and can pull the information out that we need to follow through. Because right now, Lisa was just a missing person, and it's not illegal to be missing.
On January 29, 2013, Allan was interviewed by Calgary Police Homicide Detective Dave Sweet.
Thanks for coming in. I understand from Constable Sudik that you were the last person that we can confirm actually physically saw Lisa.
Lisa's common-law husband opened up to Sweet about their rocky relationship.
A lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, sometimes pushing.
Can I ask you, were you the abuser or were you the abused?
Abused.
You were the abused, okay.
He said since then, they had come to an agreement. They were going to put the past behind them and work together for their kids.
Yeah, it seemed like progress was being made. Like we both did want the same thing. And now I have to look back at it and go, okay, well, you left. You just up and left.
Had their relationship been such an on and off thing for over the 10 years, he looked like he was beat down. He looked like it was one of those things like, okay, she's finally left me, so what do I do?
It seemed police had hit a dead end. Lisa had vanished without a trace. It was right about that time that a change in the law allowed Constable Sudik access to some of Lisa's private information, which could help them track her down. They needed to find Lisa so they could rule out foul play, and a change in the Missing Persons Act in Alberta opened up some new investigative avenues.
At that time, you could get the text records. So we were able to see who she spoke with and what she was speaking about. She had spoken to a lot of people, so we had to go through and talk to every one of those persons to see if they've heard from Lisa, if she was with, or if they were with Lisa at the time. Because she had an online dating profile at the time, she was dating people, so we were talking to people that she had dated. A couple of those people there was minimal information about them, so we didn't know who they were. There was one guy with a very generic name and the number came back disconnected. So we thought, okay, that's something we can look into because all of a sudden this person's disappeared and Lisa was having a long-term conversation with him. So we had to find him and interview him.
Officers continued to investigate, but there was still no sign of Lisa. Months turned into years. Allan needed to move on and build a life without her. Allan was working hard to build a happy home for his kids.
Coming up after the break, Lisa's mother needed answers. Police hoped an appeal for help from the public could spark a break in the case. The months turned into years, and still no answers. But police didn't give up. We now return to Nancy Hixt with a seemingly small detail that led to a major break in this case.
A plea for help tonight from the family of a missing Calgary woman. Lisa Mitchell disappeared without a trace.
Nancy Hixt reports.
Mitchell's mother has so many unanswered questions. Questions police have tried to answer, but so far have no good leads.
Sometimes I go to bed at night and I just wonder if she's warm, comfortable, happy. Not knowing is the worst.
A few weeks after that story aired, police announced a break in the case. On December 6, 2014, more than 2 years after Lisa Mitchell disappeared, police found her body. Lisa Mitchell had been in their home all along. It took investigators an incredible amount of time and resources to be able to uncover the truth. Remember that phone call to Peggy, the one she got when she was asleep? That call turned out to be key evidence in the case.
We were able to get the phone number that had called Lisa. Because I asked Peggy for her phone records and it didn't show up because it was a private number. And it was registered with a kind of one of those pay-as-you-go type phone companies.
The phone was purchased in Calgary, but registered in Edmonton. There were only a handful of calls made, 4 to Allan Shyback and 1 to Peggy Mitchell. On the surface, that sounds about right. After all, Peggy did receive a call.
Except that Allan told us he never heard from Lisa after the emails, which stopped coming on November 4th. Something in Allan's story is not making sense. So as far as we can tell, he's lied to us for some reason. We don't know his involvement, we don't know why, but now we have evidence that there's more to Allan than what we're hearing.
That took the investigation in an entirely new direction. The fact Allan did not disclose the full truth to Detective Sweet changed everything.
Now we have a criminal investigation. Now we have foul play.
Crime analysts are able to map out cell communications. In this case, the cell ping showed where the caller was when that voicemail was left for Peggy in the middle of the night.
It was down the street from Allan's house. So which means that if Lisa left that message for Peggy, she was either in Allan's house or near Allan's house. Now that it's a crime, I can use the full power of the criminal code to request Allan's phone records, find out where he's been for the last few months, get his bank records, find out what he's been spending his money on, do those sorts of things, and investigate to see how was Allan involved and was he really involved.
It turned out Allan had been doing a bit of shopping in the days following Lisa's disappearance.
So the banking records provided us the stores he went shopping and the amount he paid. So from that, I was able to go to each of those stores and request a copy of the receipt for that transaction. He went shopping for a large plastic tub, cat litter, bleach, gloves, cement, a mixing bucket, and a 4 by 2 foot piece of plywood. Well, he didn't have a cat, so the cat litter was kind of a red flag. Peggy had told me that he was deathly allergic to cats. And also there was a cash withdrawal from Walmart, that same transaction for $40. The cell phone used to contact Peggy was a $39.99 cost for a 3-month or a 1-month use that was bought at a Walmart. Those are not normal things that you'd purchase. I don't purchase, or the normal person would purchase. So I went out and actually purchased those items, just so I could see exactly what they were. I went and purchased the same SKU. And I brought them back to my coworkers in missing persons and homicide and said, what do you guys think? And they all said, that's a burial kit.
But police still didn't have the proof they needed to find her body or make an arrest. During this time, Allan Shyback was just going about his normal life. He didn't realize he was a suspect. And while he was at work, investigators took another look around his house.
The house looked like any normal house. He had pictures of him and the children and Lisa up on the walls. The computers were mirrored, so I didn't know what was going on with that because it had to be analyzed. And we took a look at the basement, and in the basement was the bucket, the plywood, the bleach, the gloves, and a large built-out cement construction in the corner of the basement that was covered with boxes.
Police were careful not to move anything. They didn't want to tip Shyback off that they were onto him. They still needed more evidence. Investigators needed to come up with a way to get him to confess, and that's when they decided to do an undercover sting dubbed Operation Aurora.
And that was the major crimes investigative technique to befriend Allan and find out what happened.
It was a Mr. Big sting, a tactic used in a lot of major crimes investigations. Police sometimes create fake criminal organizations, and the suspects confess to a crime boss or Mr. Big. But that scenario wouldn't work in this case.
Well, that was the troubling part. Allan's not a criminal. He had no criminal past. He wasn't your biker. He wasn't your gangster. He wasn't even your shoplifter. They were able to befriend Allan through non-criminal means. So the undercover guys were very creative in finding ways to get out. We worked on arranging babysitters, so we could help him come out and, hang out with the guys.
There was a lot of time and effort put in to making the undercover operation work.
We came up with a scenario where Allan was taken out of town, worked with these guys, hang out with them, where we were prepared now to search his house.
Allan Shyback went on a trip to Winnipeg, and that's when police turned up the heat.
You want to make him feel a lot of pressure. So we wait until Allan's with one of our undercover operators, and there's a phone call made where Detective Sweet kind of explains what's happened. Now it's a criminal investigation, and that we're going to be searching his house, and kind of leave it at that.
Allan was in a vehicle with an undercover officer when Detective Sweet told him his house was being searched.
I was told he stopped breathing for a second. He turned white. He started getting clammy, sweaty, began to hyperventilate, and had to have a cigarette. Allan gets out of the truck. The undercover operator gets out of the truck with him. They have a smoke, and Allan actually tells us what happened.
Investigators made an arrest in the case. Allan Shyback was charged with second-degree murder and causing an indignity to Lisa's body. Four and a half years after Lisa disappeared, in April of 2017, Shyback stood trial. Graphic details of the case were revealed in court. It turned out Lisa's body had been hidden in plain sight.
Next on Crime Beat, dramatic details of the undercover operation would soon come to light. For nearly 2 years, police worked to solve Lisa's case, and what they needed was a confession. To get that, they used a covert police technique, a Mr. Big sting operation. Here now is Nancy Hixt with the conclusion of the disappearance of Lisa Mitchell.
As any major crime, there's somebody who can help him. So the undercover operator knows a guy who Allan's met before, who has talents and abilities, who could possibly help him out in this situation.
Shyback went to an apartment where he met with a man he believed could help him evade arrest.
I just recently got contacted by homicide detective. I basically have to get and completely lose who I am who the kids are and start over. But if they do search the house, the reality is they are going to arrest me.
Shyback opened up to Mr. Big and told him about the tumultuous relationship.
We realized us fighting separately wasn't getting us anywhere. We tried to reconcile. We've been living together again for a few months, and of course, it was good for a little bit.
He told the officer the day after the Halloween party in Longview, Lisa arrived home and they started arguing.
Yeah, she was just in a bad mood that whole day, and then okay, kind of just go to bed, let tomorrow's another day, and then right from the as we kind of argued it through that night, eventually just said the hell of it, went to sleep. I just slept on the couch, and first thing the next day it was like just right back into it, and it just kind of kept going and going and going.
Shyback said the fights continued when they got up the following day.
I don't even remember what the real fight was all about. I don't even remember. All I remember is that we were just arguing. It was just back and forth. Yeah, the whole day, and I can't even think of what it was. I don't know what we were saying to each other. I don't know what was getting everything so heated.
Shyback said they were in the kitchen when things took a turn for the worse. He said Lisa had a chef's knife in her hand.
She kind of came towards me with the knife, and I don't know if at the time I thought she was trying to stab me. I don't know now. Honestly, things happened. I wound up trying to hold her back, hold her down. My hands wound up around her neck. I choked. I can remember sitting there trying to let go and not being able to. So I wound up hiding her body and putting some text messages and emails from her to the family and stuff saying that she left.
He decided he had to make Lisa disappear.
And I cleaned that place top to bottom with bleach and stuff 2 or 3 times afterwards, just to be sure.
While Shyback was confessing, police were busy searching the house. Constable Sudik needed to find her body, and they needed to do it carefully so they didn't destroy evidence.
So we consulted with UFC archaeologists. How do we excavate? How do we bring it down? Do we spend days? Do we spend weeks? And then ultimately it came down, we just start bashing away at cement until we find her and then make the plan, or go with plan A, B, or C. So we cleaned the basement out. The good folks at Homicide were more than happy to come out and help me break the cement away. And with chisels and hammers, we were able to break it down to the point we found a large Rubbermaid container in the cement. And we opened it up, and there was Lisa's remains in cat litter and salt, or soft water salt.
Lisa was placed in a plastic tub in the fetal position. She was covered in salt and cat litter, and the tub was duct taped shut. Shyback used a door to create a mold around the plastic tub and then poured cement over top the container, entombing her.
It was cracked, and he used the bleach and cleaner to clean it up from time to time. And he banned the children from going downstairs into the basement.
Police found air fresheners all over the house to try to hide any smell. Shyback tried to cover off every angle that could lead investigators back to him.
Got hold of another cell phone, like through Walmart kind of thing, one of those prepaid deals. Got it activated to an Edmonton number. And that's what I used to call her mom and leave a voice. And I just played a recording from the computer through the phone, or through the speaker basically. It said, hi Mom, sorry, I just got kind of a weight on me. Oh, he's coming back now, I gotta go. Because I accessed her email accounts and stuff from there, and I created the phone call from the computer. I had some clips of her voice. I patched those together and sent her mom a voicemail with her voice on it to try and help make sure that it seemed like she was gone and try and give some sort of life back to her.
Police enlisted the help of an audio specialist from their tech crimes unit and were able to find the calls he used to splice together the voicemail. He had been tracking Lisa's communications for some time leading up to her disappearance.
He put stalkerware on her phone. So every time something would happen with her phone, the information would go to an email account or a storage area that he had set up, so he can go through and review all that.
A forensic examination of Shyback's laptop revealed a history of online searches in the weeks and months after Lisa vanished. In December 2012, he Googled how body decomposition is affected by various things such as salt, lye, concrete, lack of air, and lack of insect activity. Similar searches were done in April and May of 2014, along with other queries on murder legislation in Canada. The state of decomposition made it difficult for the forensic pathologist to examine Lisa's body, but determined she died as a result of probable manual strangulation. During the trial, Shyback testified in his own defense. In every confession he gave, Shyback maintained he killed Lisa in self-defense.
He said that he was defending himself against Lisa. Again, he was there, Lisa was there, Lisa's now dead.
The court found the act of holding his hands around Lisa's throat, resulting in her death, was not self-defense. However, the judge said she had a reasonable doubt that he intended to kill her. Allan Shyback was found not guilty of second-degree murder and instead convicted of the lesser offense of manslaughter. He was also convicted of interfering with her remains. In court, Shyback said he was deeply sorry for what had happened. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison, 5 for manslaughter and 2 for indignity to Lisa's body. But the prosecution wasn't satisfied with that sentence and filed an appeal. Alberta's top court pointed to Shyback's deception. He led Lisa's family to believe she was alive and hold out hope she might return. The Alberta Court of Appeal found the original sentence was unfit and increased his overall sentence by 3 years. The what-ifs have replayed over and over in Peggy's mind. What if she would have done a more thorough search of Shyback's home that day when she confronted him? What if she had done some snooping around any one of the times she visited the home and slept over while caring for her grandkids?
But then, okay, if you take that what if and I would have done that, maybe they wouldn't have gotten him as good as they did. Yeah, things happen for a reason sometimes, right? Like one of the officers in the end apologized for saying, didn't truthfully tell me what they were doing because obviously he couldn't. And I had said to him, I said, but you got him. It doesn't matter, it took you 2 years, you got him.
Peggy's life forever changed when her daughter disappeared. Every day she thinks of her. And the day her body was found, Peggy's life took another dramatic turn. She's now raising her 2 grandkids, Lisa's children.
When this all happened, December 5th, they find Lisa. A week later, we buried her. And a week after that, so within 2 weeks, we had kids. Total life changer. At my close to retirement age, I am raising a 10 and a 12-year-old. Yeah, but they bring life back. It's like, I can't take you swimming today, or I do have 20 minutes to read a story with you, or we can have a movie night. It's different. It makes you, it's made us take a second look and really enjoy life and sit back. There was one point that her daughter wanted to hear her voice because she was very young. I believe she was 3 when her mom disappeared. And it was a couple years ago. She had said to me, she said, "Grandma, I don't remember my mom's voice." It's a hard day. So I said, okay, I've got some VHS tapes. And she's like, "We don't want VHS." And I pulled them out because when Lisa was in the dance troupe with Just Cuz and her friends, they made their own videos. We sat here on a Saturday afternoon and we watched all her videos from her dance works and her Just Cuz days with her girlfriends. And in these videos she was singing, she was dancing, she was talking, and it was just amazing. Yeah, we spent a whole afternoon just crying, laughing, and it was really good. It was what she needed.
But along with remembering the good times come questions about where their parents are.
They know at first we were allowed to tell them that their mom's an angel and their dad is with the police. And that's all we were allowed to say for the first few years. But over the last few years, they know that their dad did something to make their mom die, and that is why he's in jail.
The older the kids get, the more questions they ask. And Peggy knows it's only a matter of time before they want to know exactly what happened to their mother.
We do have the hard copies of newspapers and one of the pre-trial transcripts. So we have hard copies for them. But when do you bring that up? And her daughter just brought some stuff up in last few days. We were throwing rocks at the river. We went down there for a few hours, and she's just picking them up and chucking them in. And she says, "Grandma, you know, I'm getting rid of some of my anger." I said, "Why do you have that much anger at your young age? You know, you can't carry that." And she goes, "I'm glad my dad's in prison for what he did to my mom." But she didn't go into detail. And I said, "Throw more rocks. Get it out before we go home."
Peggy loves that Lisa's legacy will always live on through her children.
How much of Lisa do you see in them?
Oh my God, every day, every day. She was very outgoing, very extroverted, loved to have fun, but in a good way. She was an awesome mother. She adored those kids. They were the light of her life. And her kids will carry that on. Her son remembers a few things, but he knows that he remembers having fun and that she made him smile and feel good. I mean, he was young, but no, she had a spirit that keeps living on in them.
There you go. There you go. No. Where are you going? Oh, door.
In February 2019, just over 6 years after Lisa's death, and just a few years into his 10-year prison sentence, Shyback was granted day parole. Several months later, sex toys were found in his room at a halfway house, and he admitted he had paid for sex at a massage parlor on more than one occasion. The parole board found he was deceitful and revoked his day parole. Shyback was sent back to prison. I'm Anthony Robart. Thank you for joining us tonight on Crime Beat.
For more on this story and other high-profile Canadian cases, check out Crime Beat Podcast. You can listen for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on CuriousCast.ca.